Hi, Ask. So I've had the new Charlie XCX album Brat on repeat for the last 2 weeks, I think. But I've been wanting to play around a little bit in Ableton and kind of like recreate a Charlie inspired song. But on one of her songs, 365, she has this sound, and it sounds like old phones when they're about to receive a text message and they go beep 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 beep. Um, but I just think it's a really cool sound, and it adds like a very like 90s Y2K brat aesthetic to the song. So I'm gonna play it now for a sec so you can hear what I mean. And I want to know, like, do you know how to make it in Ableton? If you have any advice for me in how to recreate something like this, so that I can be like Charlie XCX and be a cool girl. Yes, thank you.
Yo, Tess, that was a really sweet message. Thank you. I love a good challenge. So I sat down today with this in mind. And so what I've done is I've made myself, well, actually recreated the whole song. But let me address the question specifically that you had given me, which was, let's say we have the basic beat here. Right? The sound that we're looking for is sort of like that, right? So we're thinking of a sound kind of like this. What are the features of this sound? Well, first of all, it's only playing one note, so it's a really rhythmical sound, and it just kind of sounds like some variation of a sawtooth wave. So imagine you take like a really default sawtooth wave. So it sounds like that. Ish. And before we sound design it any further, let's think about the pattern. So it's doing beep 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 beep, and some of the notes are a little bit longer. So beep 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 beep, something like that. So for a pattern like that, we just program in a little pattern that's just playing every 16th note. So let me just do that. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Select all and make them all a little bit shorter. So that gives us something like, super annoying sound. But what we can do is we can make some of these notes a little bit longer. So something like this, for example. And then we change the length of the loop to be not exactly 1 bar, so that those long notes always fall a little bit differently in the musical composition. So if I drag the loop in to about this length, we get something like, okay. And now another one of its features is that it flows very much behind the percussion. So whenever the kick or the clap hits, this sound really kind of feels like it's going in a wave backwards. So when that happens, the thing you should think is sidechain compression. It's a type of compression where when one sound plays, another sound gets quiet to make space for that first sound. So for example, we would take a compressor here, flip it into sidechain mode, and select the rhythm and percussion. And then when we hit play, you can see here the signal of the drums coming through. And so every time that the drums hits, the volume of this element ducks. It makes it kind of very unstable, but it's kind of cool because then with the beat, so much movement in it, even though it's so static as well at the same time. And so I think those are the main characteristics of the sound. And now I kept looking a little bit because that sawtooth wave didn't fully convince me. I was like, I want to find a sound source that can play this riff, but that sounds a little bit more buzzy and electrical somehow. So where I ended up was a wavetable that's doing something like this. And so it's very similar to that sawtooth wave, except it's got some wave folding going on, which is just, it's a kind of a technique that makes things a bit brighter and harsher. And then I heavily bandpass it, so I cut out all the low information and all the high information. And then I do that again after the compressor. And so yeah. Now we're vibing. Here, I'm gonna delete the other one. Nice. And so that's that. If you want to put words to this element, I would call this a Morse code, because I think it sounds like Morse code, you know, beep, 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 beep. But you're totally right that it sounds like the old interference on phones when you're getting a text message. And if it's nearby a speaker, then the speaker would start to make this sound, right?
Hey, Ask, I just got your message about the Brat audio. In honor of that, I am sitting in front of a green Brat wall at home, and I have my Brat eyeliner on, and I'm ready for Brat summer. Oh my god, I love it. It's exactly what I wanted. I'm very excited to watch your tutorial now and follow along in Ableton and get my little hands in there and make my own version and be able to make my own song of the summer, because it's gonna be a brat summer.
But so what else can we say about this composition? So first of all, look at this drum pattern. All there is a clap, a backbeat clap, and then some very sparse kicks, because the rhythm that you're really dancing to is a combination of this bass. So this bass is really giving you the rhythm to hold on to dance to, together with the clap. So it's not about the kick drum. In a lot of genres that I work with, the kick drum is very steady pulse throughout the song. Here the kick drum barely plays. And there's this beautiful layer of these plucks. Here, let me solo them. That give a little bit of lightness to the heaviness of the bass. But they're also not too bright, so the whole thing stays very lush and dark. Now, one thing that I find most exciting about this type of music is the sort of dark and edgy atmosphere that is created, and it's super unclear what is causing this dark and edgy atmosphere. And specifically, it's the chords. So let's talk about that music theory for just 1 second. Because one thing that's happening in the bass is that the bass starts on the F, so you might think this is in F major or in F minor, and then what it does is it goes up 1 semitone, which is a very edgy interval and totally not within the scale of major or minor. So I'd like to offer you 2 ways of looking at this. One way of looking at this might be to say, the first interval of the scale is a single semitone. That's very characteristic of something called the Phrygian mode. So maybe this thing is composed mostly in the Phrygian mode, and that's a very strong argument for that. I think it's a very sensible way of looking at things, and you really capture evil or mysterious vibe of the Phrygian mode. However, a different perspective is that I tend to like to bring everything back to its relative major and then count from that relative major. And so what I would suggest that this song might be doing is it might be going from this chord to this chord, which is a minor chord, into a major chord, a semitone above it, which is very characteristic for the minor 3 and the major 4 in a major scale. And so that would then mean that this would be the home of our relative major scale. So and so it's doing a minor 3 to major 4. And to further confirm that idea, it continues up by going another major and then another minor above it. So that would be minor 3 to major 4 to major 5 to minor 6. And then in the pre-chorus, where there's this wicked acid riff, it keeps playing. It keeps just playing these 3 notes, which is a 6-5-4 kind of chord progression that's very common as well. And it hangs out on this note, making you think, okay, we've made our way to the root of the relative minor, the 6th chord. And then in the chorus, they modulate the key. And what does that mean? Well, they just completely change the key of the song so that they can then go, basically doing that trick again of just going up 1 semitone. So going up 1 semitone really is, let's say, the backbone of the music theory in this. And so doing that same move here suggests that, well, we've moved to a different key, and maybe this is a 3 and this is the 4. So if that's the case, then if this is the 3, this must be the 1. So it might be an F sharp. And this time I feel like the chord that works best over it is a major 3 to a major 4. And that's a trick that's done quite often in a lot of songs. For example, Tatu's All the Things She Said, or Killis's My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard. Warm it up, the boys are waiting. My rhythm is all messed up because of the delay. But anyway, so in that case, it's again doing a 3 to a 4, but a major 3 to a major 4. A major 3 really is a bit of a secret weapon for a certain kind of an atmosphere. So if you wanted to compose something in the vibe of Charlie XCX, focus on 1 note and then going up 1 semitone, and consider that the 3 and the 4 of your scale. The 4 is pretty much always major, and the 3 very often can be minor or major. So just choose one of those and have fun composing. When you're trying to make tunes, let me show you what to do. Hit the channel YouTube. Underdogs got you. Shall we make a little beat? Shall we make it go deep? like the video and subscribe, and leave me a comment below. Just send me your own video requests. So make a video, tag me at Oscar Underdog on Instagram, for example, and let me know what song and what timestamp. If I like the video enough, maybe I'll do a treatment like this. Anyway, until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and have a bratty summer.